You know, back in the late 1960s, a killer absolutely terrorized Northern California. But this wasn't just about murder. It was a public performance of terror. He sent these taunting letters and cryptic codes to the press. He gave himself a name, the Zodiac, and then, after years of whipping up fear, he just vanished. He basically became a ghost story for the digital age, and the question of who he was remains one of America's most famous and most frustrating unsolved mysteries.
Okay, so here's how we're gonna break this down. First, we'll get into how he turned murder into this terrifying public spectacle. Then, we'll look at the deadly games he played with his codes. After that, we'll follow the massive hunt for this guy. And finally, we'll dig into exactly why this case went cold and why it's still such a chilling mystery today. All right, first up, the performance. To really get the Zodiac, you have to understand that this was never just about killing. Nope. This was a carefully staged production, all designed to create the most fear possible and turn the entire Bay Area into his personal captive audience. In this quote from legendary FBI profiler John Douglas just hits the nail on the head. The Zodiac treated his crimes like some kind of dark, twisted play. He wasn't hiding in the shadows, he was practically begging for the spotlight, making sure the media, the police, and the whole world were watching. So this table shows the official, confirmed attacks. Now, the Zodiac would later brag about having as many as 37 victims, but his confirmed reign of terror targeted these 7 people. And the impact on those communities was just immense, creating this constant climate of fear. For 5 of them, the story ended in the worst way imaginable, but two of them survived, and in doing so, they gave us the only first-hand accounts we have of the man behind the myth. The attack on July 4th, 1969 really shows you the razor-thin line between life and death in this whole case. Michael McGough miraculously survived and gave police one of their only eyewitness descriptions of the attacker. But his survival also sparks one of the case's biggest rabbit holes, the idea that Darlene Ferrin might have actually known her killer. It's a question that has haunted investigators for decades. This wasn't just an attack, it was a ritual. I mean, the attack at Lake Berryessa was his most theatrical, his most bone-chilling performance. The costume, that symbol, his calm demeanor while doing these horrific things. He was consciously building his own dark legend, creating an image so terrifying, it's been seared into our collective nightmare ever since. Okay, so let's shift gears to the psychological warfare. See, the Zodiac wasn't happy with just killing. He needed to boast, he needed to taunt, and he needed to turn his murder spree into a public puzzle that would challenge the entire world. So he sends out 4 main ciphers to the press. The first one got cracked almost right away, but the second one, the Z340, baffled the experts for over half a century. It wasn't until 2020 that a team of amateur sleuths finally cracked it. And even now, there are 2 shorter ciphers that remain completely unsolved, like a final challenge from a killer who's long gone. And this is the chilling message from that first solved cipher, the Z408. It gave the world a truly horrifying peek inside his mind. He's framing murder as a sport, a game, and he reveals this bizarre belief that his victims are going to become his slaves in the afterlife. Just terrifying stuff. And this brings us to what might be his most powerful psychological weapon, the number 37. Police have only ever been able to confirm 5 murders, but by claiming 37, he created this terrifying void, a huge gap between fact and fiction, that he filled with public fear and speculation. It made his reign of terror feel absolutely limitless. So, with the public completely terrified and a killer who's actively taunting them, one of the biggest manhunts in California history kicks off. But, investigators pretty quickly learned they weren't just chasing a man. They were chasing a ghost who was always one step ahead. Over the years, more than 2,500 people were investigated as potential suspects. This is just a tiny sample of the big names that kept coming up. And each one seemed promising for a while, but every single time, the hard forensic evidence just wasn't there to make a solid link. Of all the suspects, Arthur Lee Allen was the biggest. For decades, he was the guy. The circumstantial evidence was just overwhelming. He seemed to fit perfectly. But every single time investigators thought they had him cornered, the physical evidence, the fingerprints, the handwriting, and finally the DNA told a totally different story, clearing him and sending the case right back to square one. So, that brings us to the big one, the ultimate question: why? After all these decades, thousands of suspects, and all our modern technology, why has no one ever been charged for these crimes? Well, here's a perfect, heartbreaking example of the problem. Picture this. It's just minutes after the Zodiac's final confirmed murder. A simple but fatal error goes out over the police radio, a wrong description of the suspect. And because of that, 2 officers drive right past a man who was almost certainly the killer, letting him just melt away into the San Francisco night. But look, the case wasn't just doomed by one mistake. It was a total, perfect storm of problems. Evidence was handled poorly by today's standards, which makes modern DNA testing an absolute nightmare. You had different police departments in different counties not talking to each other effectively, and the Zodiac himself? Oh, he played the media like a fiddle, creating chaos and flooding the investigation with so many false leads, it was nearly impossible to find the real clues in all that noise. So here we are, left with this one final question. We have these amazing modern tools, like genetic genealogy, that can solve 50-year-old cold cases. But can that tech overcome decades of contaminated evidence? Can science finally unmask a ghost? Or was the Zodiac's cruel performance so flawless that he actually left behind the perfect crime, his final and forever unsolvable riddle?